The Mothman. The first evidence of the existence of an extraordinary creation is dated 1920th year. They are kept in the military archives of the United States of America. The records describe the actual events described by the witnesses. William Lamb, a Nebraska resident, was the first person to record testimony about a meeting with a Mothman. He described the object he saw as a man with wings who descended through the air and chased behind a tree, behind which an eyewitness hid. It turned out to be impossible to catch up with the guest, as he left no traces and quickly disappeared from sight. Similar meetings were described by two married couples from the town of Point Pleasant. Friends were driving to visit on a dark road and saw big red eyes near the car. They quickly disappeared from sight, and behind the nearest hill another creature similar in description to the one William Lamb encountered soared into the air. Young people described the creature as a monster with limbs resembling bat wings. Similar notes were left by Russian eyewitnesses who told about meetings with a strange object in the Far East. In the Soviet years, a flying creature was noticed in Primorai, in a mountainous area, for peddling. Researchers, hunters, representatives of the border service and tourists spoke about meetings with this. The strange creature was elusive and there was no reliable evidence that it was not a trick of vision. The situation was changed by the incident of 1956. Geologists who went on an expedition on the Anna II plane testified that during the flight they saw a large-sized flying creature. It attacked the plane at the moment of overtaking and damaged the wing. Upon landing, the pilot found particles of flesh and skin of the air enemy on the skin. In 1999, the first full-fledged photo of a human moth appeared, taken by a local resident who later sold the negative of the film to a South Korean researcher. The natural phenomenon of a man floating in the air still remains a mystery, although there are a lot of assumptions about its origin. He is compared to Yeti and similar creatures. According to scientists, the appearance of this creature can be influenced by various events. For example, the catastrophe that still remains in the memory of many, Chernobyl. Although the evidence remains controversial, the legend of the winged man has existed for decades and to this day he is active. In America, memorable events remain that are associated with the appearance of the human moth. For example, an emergency in the mines in 1907, a tornado in 1944. The collapse of the Silver Bridge in 1967. The crash of an airliner in 1968. These and other accidents were preceded by the appearance of a mysterious creature, which seemed to want to warn the inhabitants of the area over which the danger was hanging. Oh Kong. Imagine that you are driving along a night road in the countryside and suddenly a dead body appears right in your path, dressed in a white funeral shroud. This is Pokong. Pokong's face is pale green, dried up, rotten. Instead of eyes, he has two gaping holes. Usually it can be found near villages at night. He's bouncing around like he's looking for something or someone. A jump on the Congo can reach from 40 to 50 meters in length. Also, Pokong can roll on the ground. In Indonesian, a pakangka is a garment that is wrapped around a dead body before burial. According to legend, the soul of a person after death is still on earth for 40 days. After 40 days, the soul flies away, and the ropes must be removed so that the soul can leave the earth. If the ropes are not removed, the dead body will turn into a ghost and jump out of the grave, becoming Pokong. Since his legs are tied, he cannot walk and jumps on the roads. If you meet Pokong, he will not harm you, but will follow you wherever you go. He can only attack you if you block his path. Therefore, do not stand up Pakonga on the way, immediately step aside, otherwise you will regret it. There are only two ways to get rid of the Pokong: fall to the ground and pretend to be dead or try to escape from it. Pokong will stop chasing you when you disappear from his sight. Also, the Pokong will not chase you if you untie the knots of the ropes to which the shroud is tied. One little girl lived in a small Malaysian village. One day, as usual, she finished her evening class and went home. Passing by the path near the forest, she suddenly heard a strange sound behind her. The girl was scared, went on, but the strange sounds did not stop. When the girl slowed down, the sounds also softened and were quieter. When the girl started walking faster, the sounds also accelerated and sounded louder. It was only when the girl got home that she plucked up the courage to look around. What she saw filled her with horror. Behind her was a baby dressed in a funeral shroud. The girl screamed in horror. In desperation, the girl ran through the trees, tearing through the bushes. In the end, she ran out onto a long path and started running along it until the ghost fell behind her. When she finally got home, her legs were shaking. The next day she told her mother everything she had seen. Her mom told her it was Pekong and she needed to hug him. Many people believe that if you have the courage and hug the Congo, you will be very healthy. Then you need to untie the knot on the head of the Congo and thereby free his soul. The right eye is kind of like even a real-life story, although skeptics called it just an urban legend. There was a young woman in Korea who was blind in one eye. Finally, the cornea of her eye was transplanted. The operation was successful, and the woman was discharged from the hospital. However, a week later she did not come to work, her friends could not contact her, she did not answer calls, and even when her parents started calling her. Eventually her parents became alarmed and went to her house. They rang the doorbell, but no one answered. Then they called the police to break down the door. The woman was found lying on the floor in a pool of blood. She committed suicide by cutting her wrists. The parents were devastated. They didn't understand why their daughter did it. The police noticed that all the mirrors in the apartment were broken, and all reflective objects were also covered with sheets. When they discovered the girl's personal diary, they found a strange entry on the last page. It was all covered with the same phrase, "My right eye is looking at me, my right eye is looking at me. My right eye is looking at me, my right eye is looking at me." Ekura. In American Indian folklore, an Ekura is the spirit of a girl who died in agony from an illness. However, she has returned from the spirit world and lives on the top of hills and mountains. At night, she descends from the valley to spread diseases among sleeping children. During the day and night, she takes on a human form and looks completely different from how a demon should look according to traditional ideas. She appears in the guise of a small fragile girl with a sickly skin color. Everyone who sees her begins to feel sorry for the girl, thinking that she is sick. She uses this pity to her advantage, making friends with those who pitied her. Indian folklore claims that this demon has a second appearance, which the demon takes only after he makes an acquaintance with someone. Prior to this, the Ekura carefully hides its true appearance. She is a terrible monster in the form of a skin-covered skeleton with red eyes and long sharp nails, which she stretches over sleeping children to cast her shadow on them. In this way, Ekura spreads diseases to children. Her shadow is like the breath of an infected person. As a rule, children are affected by an incurable disease, and the child is sick for a very long time and painfully before he dies. Ekura feeds on human suffering, and the more she delivers them, the stronger she becomes. It is believed that the red color can protect against Ekura, so parents make red amulets for their children and make them wear red thread and ribbon around their necks. Another way to protect against Isera is salt. Therefore, many Indian children carry bags of salt with them. Also, salt is scattered around pieces of furniture. It is believed that this can protect the house from the visit of Isera, and it cannot cross the line of salt. Ekura, like most demons, is much stronger than a human and can easily tear a human body in half. She can become invisible and can disturb the dwelling for a long time in which she climbed before killing the owner. The Midnight Game. For this game you will need a candle, paper, pen, salt and a needle. Firstly, everyone who plays gathers in one house. You can't call a midnight man on the street. Then, since the one who wrote the game was not worried about the transmission of the disease, everyone signs their name on a piece of paper and marks it with a drop of their blood. In my opinion, this is the scariest part of the game. When the start time approaches, go to the wooden door that you are using and put paper under it. Turn off all the lights and light a candle. Then, at the stroke of 12, you will knock on the wooden door 22 times. When you finish knocking, blow out the candle and open the door. Congratulations, you just let the Midnight Man in. Now be prepared to avoid an allegedly very painful death. Quickly light a candle and start moving. Always keep moving. In this game it follows you around the house trying to catch you. They say that throughout the game it gives you a terrifying vision. It wants to throw you out of the candle game so that you let it go out. If your candle goes out, you will have problems because it protects you to some extent. Take a lighter and light it very quickly in 10 seconds. If you fail, know that a mass of darkness is coming. Take your salt, make a circle around yourself and then duck down. You'll be there until the game is over. There are rules in the game, but basically it all comes down to don't cheat. Don't be that arrogant person who thinks you can turn on all the lights or run away from home. If there is anything that can anger this ancient entity, it is the wrong game to which you invited this entity. You must either keep the candle lit while driving, or stay in the salt crew until 3:33. At this point, the game is ready and you can turn on the lights and go online to exaggerate your impressions. Of course, I do not recommend playing this game, but if you decide, make sure that you have done your research and prepared. Otherwise, the Midnight Man can get you. I personally conducted the verification of this legend on the truthfulness alone in the hermit's house. You will find a link to the full video shot by me in the description. The legend of the monoliths. For several decades, steel monoliths have been appearing and disappearing in different parts of the world. No one can understand who installs them and where they disappear. The first monolith was found on the 2nd of December, 2010 year. In shape, it is a triangular prism made of a material similar to stainless steel. Its height is 3 meters, the width of the face is 46 centimeters. It is mystically fixed in the corners, no one can figure out how. It is as if it is held together with the help of air. There are no screws, no welding, no glue. It was found in the Utah desert. It was found by employees of the State Department of Public Safety, noticed by the helicopter during the monitoring of the migration of the ram. Google satellite showed that the mysterious object, wherever it came from, had been standing in this place for several years, at least since the 2010 year. However, after the discovery 3 days later, the monolith disappeared as mysteriously as it appeared. Versions of the origin of the monolith were very different. From aliens to avant-garde artists. But the names of the alleged authors sounded very different and not a single artist admitted to installing the monolith. And 3 days later, a similar monolith was discovered on one of the hills near the town of Piatronemec in Romania. It's like he was discovered in Utah and he just teleported to Romania. Interestingly, despite the external similarity in details, all 3 monoliths that were discovered are still different. They have different heights and widths. In addition, the monolith in Tascadera, unlike the one in Russia and Romania, is not fixed on the ground and apparently can be overturned. What are these objects that appear in different parts of the world, and how they are discovered immediately disappear? Could it be alien objects or art decor? Then who and why places them in a place where it is unlikely that anyone will notice? To this day, it remains a mystery.